Hi, joining us in the interview of the day is Mr. Shanta Devarajan. He's the acting chief economist of the World Bank. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
You've done a research on the efficient use of oil revenues. As you know, Kazakhstan majority of its revenue from oil. So could you share with us some of the findings of your study?
Well, the reason we did this study was that we noticed a systematic pattern across all major oil exporters around the world, that they tend to be extremely inefficient in the use of the revenues from the oil. And I think the main point is that with oil producers, the oil revenues comes directly from the oil company to the government without passing through the citizens. And this is different from, say, tax revenue, because tax revenue is something that citizens actually pay. And this has two implications. One is that when they pay taxes, citizens have a better idea of how much revenue there is, whereas with the oil revenues, they may not know. But secondly, and this is more important, citizens think of the tax revenue as their money that they're giving to the government, so they demand better use of that money. Whereas with oil revenues, citizens often feel it's not their money, even though it is their right, but somehow because it's so abstract, it doesn't get into their consciousness. So what we're suggesting in the paper is that instead of the oil money coming to the government and then the government spending it, which is in a very inefficient way, you could improve efficiency by the government transferring the oil money directly to the citizens and then taxing the citizens. So this way then the money comes in through tax revenues rather than through oil revenues, and that way citizens are more likely to scrutinize the public spending, and you get an increase in efficiency.
So could you give me an example? How could the oil revenue goes to the government and then government would give back to the people?
So it'll be a very simple rule. Every citizen gets the same amount. So the government just sends a check. And today with technology, you can send it to their phone or to their smart card or a debit card. Everybody gets the same amount and you just get the check, right? And then you can have a tax system that actually is progressive. That is, rich people pay more than poor people, and some poor people will not pay any taxes, and that's how the government gets its revenue. So the first stage would be automatic. It's a little bit like what they've been doing in Alaska. You know, in Alaska, there's oil money that goes to every citizen of Alaska, every resident of Alaska, for that matter, automatically. The province of Alberta in Canada is doing it. They've tried it in Mongolia as well.
So what was the situation in Mongolia? They tried it in Mongolia?
In Mongolia, it had a profound effect. This was when Mongolia has mineral revenues, and there was the price of minerals went up. They transferred as cash unconditionally to everybody, every citizen. It reduced poverty by about 20%. Which is much more effective than any other anti-poverty program that we've had there.
Do you think the same solution could be adopted in Kazakhstan?
I don't see why not. I mean, I think it's certainly feasible. Kazakhstan spread of the telephone networks and things like that is quite widespread, so you can actually reach everybody electronically, so you can make the transfer, and in the same transaction, you can also use it for taxation, right? Because then you just transfer less to them for those who have to pay taxes. And I think, you know, it actually empowers citizens more. To be honest, what I observe in Kazakhstan is actually the government currently does transfer oil revenues to the citizens, but through subsidies, through free services, and through the public sector wage bill, all of which are very, very high. Now, that's a reasonable thing to do, to transfer the oil revenues, but it's very inefficient. It's much more efficient to eliminate the subsidies and just transfer it as a lump sum.
Okay, thank you very much for being with us today, Mr. Shanta.
Thank you for having me.